Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a heartbreaking and extremely serious event that has shaken communities across Ukraine and captured global attention. A Russian strike on residential flats in western Ukraine has left multiple people dead, including children and many more injured. It is being described as one of the deadliest attacks on civilian housing in that region since the war began, and its impact is both devastating and far-reaching. In this video script, we're going to walk through what happened, why it matters, how people on the ground are coping, and what this event means for the broader context of the conflict. This incident occurred in a western Ukrainian city where residents had long believed they were relatively safer compared to the hard-hit eastern regions. The attack involved a combination of drones and missiles, creating a sudden and overwhelming burst of destruction that left people without time to react. Entire portions of apartment blocks collapsed, with floors crushed together from the force of the explosion. Survivors described the moment as chaotic, with windows shattering, alarms going off, and smoke quickly filling the air. Many residents were asleep or preparing for their day, completely unaware that their lives were about to change forever. Emergency responders rushed to the scene within minutes, but the scale of destruction was overwhelming. Rescue workers had to carefully dig through piles of debris where families had once lived. The sound of machinery, sirens, and people calling out for loved ones filled the area. Firefighters battled flames while medics helped the injured, some of whom were in shock and unable to speak. For many responders, this was one of the most emotionally challenging operations they had faced, not only because of the casualties, but because the attack hit a place where civilians felt secure. As the hours passed, the casualty numbers began to rise. Many of the injured were suffering from burns, broken bones, or smoke inhalation. Among them were children who had been in their beds only moments before the strike. Parents holding injured children were seen being escorted to ambulances. Others stood in silence, staring at what remained of their homes, trying to process how such destruction could happen in seconds. The emotional trauma in that community is something that will linger long after the rubble is cleared. Officials confirmed that dozens of drones and missiles had been used across the region, with several aimed at residential zones and power infrastructure. The level of coordination suggested a deliberate effort to overwhelm defenses and cause maximum disruption. Power outages followed the attack, leaving large areas without electricity. Hospitals ran on backup generators as medical teams worked tirelessly to treat the wounded. Residents scrambled to contact relatives, and many found themselves cut off from information as communications temporarily failed. The president of Ukraine condemned the attack as a deliberate assault on civilian life. He described the scale as unacceptable and called for stronger international support to protect the country's skies. He also emphasized that civilians were once again paying the highest price in a conflict that has already claimed so many lives. His words reflected not only anger but exhaustion at the unending barrage of attacks that keep communities in a constant state of fear. Images from the scene showed thick black smoke rising from shattered buildings, debris scattered across courtyards, and cars crushed under concrete slabs. People gathered in clusters, some crying, some praying, and others simply staring in disbelief. Volunteers arrived with blankets, water, and supplies, trying to provide comfort to those who had lost everything. The sense of solidarity in moments like these is powerful, but it comes from a place of deep sorrow. This attack raises critical questions about the direction of the war. Western Ukraine had been considered relatively less targeted compared to the frontline regions, but strikes like this show that no city is truly safe. As the conflict continues, the distinction between front lines and rear areas becomes less meaningful. Civilians far from the battlefield are increasingly at risk, and the psychological effect of this widening threat is profound. One of the lasting issues that will emerge from this event is the rebuilding effort. Homes were not just damaged, they were destroyed. Families who once lived peaceful lives in these buildings now face uncertainty about where to go next. Temporary shelters have been set up, but they cannot replace the sense of security and familiarity that a home provides. Some families have lost loved ones, leaving empty rooms and memories that cannot be repaired. Reconstruction will take time, money, and emotional healing. Engineers will have to assess which sections of buildings can be saved and which must be demolished entirely. Authorities will need to relocate residents who cannot return to their homes. Aid organizations will need to provide support, not just in the form of materials, but also through counseling and psychological assistance to help people deal with trauma. The international response to the attack is also an important part of this story. Countries and organizations around the world have expressed condolences and condemned the strike. Many have called for stronger protections for civilians and renewed discussions about accountability for violations of international humanitarian law. Whether these discussions will lead to concrete action or remain symbolic expressions is something that many people in Ukraine are watching closely. At the same time, this incident has triggered debates about air defense capabilities. People are asking whether this could have been prevented with stronger defensive systems in place. Ukrainian officials have repeatedly appealed for more advanced systems to defend against missiles and drones, especially long-range attacks that target urban centers. The conversation about military support will likely intensify as the world reacts to this tragedy. Beyond the political and military dimensions, it's important to acknowledge the human aspect of this story. These were families living ordinary lives, children playing in their rooms, parents preparing meals, grandparents resting, people feeling safe in their own homes. That sense of safety was shattered in an instant. For survivors, every loud sound may now trigger fear. The trauma of losing neighbors, relatives, or even entire sections of their community will shape their lives for years to come. As news spread across Ukraine, people in other regions felt a mix of grief and rising anxiety. The idea that similar attacks could happen anywhere creates a sense of unpredictability. Communities are reinforcing shelters, conducting safety drills, and staying alert. But the emotional toll of living under constant threat cannot be underestimated. Despite the fear, there is also resilience. The people of Ukraine have shown remarkable strength throughout the conflict. Volunteers, medics, firefighters, and ordinary citizens come together again and again to support one another. This sense of unity is powerful and inspiring, even in the darkest moments. It does not erase the pain, but it helps communities survive it. In many ways, this tragic strike is a representation of the long and painful road that Ukraine has been forced to walk. It highlights the urgency of finding a way to end the violence and protect innocent lives. It underscores the need for the world to continue paying attention and to understand that behind every statistic is a human story, families, dreams, and lives that mattered. As we reflect on this event, it becomes clear that the consequences reach far beyond the physical destruction. They extend into the emotional, psychological, and societal fabric of an entire nation. They remind us of the importance of empathy and awareness during times of conflict. They also remind us that the cost of war is not measured only in ruins, but in the lives shattered along the way. Thank you for watching and for taking the time to understand the reality of what happened. If you want more in-depth breakdowns of global events, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Your engagement helps this channel continue to bring important stories forward. Stay safe wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next video.